Hello! I'm Liz, one of Derry's reference librarians, and welcome to another spooky edition of Misinformation Busters. Once a week, we tackle a rumor or false/misunderstood information, and we try to separate fact from fiction. This week, we're going to Hollywood to talk about the Poltergeist curse. So, what's the story? You're likely familiar with Poltergeist, the 1982 film about a family besieged by spirits in their house. Also, 1982 was a great year for horror. We had Poltergeist, we had The Thing, we had Halloween 3, we had Tenebra, we had the Slumber Party Massacre, Q the Winged Serpent, we had Creepshow. But I digress. Anyway, who doesn't remember that creepy tree, little Heather O'Rourke exclaiming, "They're here"? Who doesn't remember the creepy clown doll, which who would buy their child that doll? I don't get it. Anyway, director Tobe Hooper and producer Steven Spielberg gave us a lot of scares, and apparently they put a curse on the cast. Rumor has it the skeletons used in the pool scene at the end of the film were real, and that set off the curse and took the lives of 4 cast members. Will Sampson and Julianne Beck from Poltergeist 2, and Dominique Dunn and Heather O'Rourke from the original cast. So, what are the facts? Well, let's start with the origin of the curse. The skeletons. So yes, the skeletons actually were real, but this wasn't a case of Stephen and Toby telling people to go dig at graves. These skeletons were purchased from a medical supply company. Plastic skeletons were not as readily available back in the 80s as they are now, and frankly, I'm just not sure how bodies that were donated to science could set off a curse. Now let's look at the deaths. The 2 cast members from Poltergeist 2 are sad cases, but not that spooky. Julianne Beck, who played the evil Kane, died at age 60 of stomach cancer in September of 1985, 7 months before the film was set to be released. However, Beck had been diagnosed with stomach cancer back in 1983 before he was even signed on to the film. So this doesn't look like a curse, but a battle with stomach cancer that came to an end. The other cast member was Will Sampson, who played Taylor, and he died at age 53 in 1987. But again, this was a case of a pre-existing medical condition. Sampson suffered from, and forgive me with my pronunciation, scleroderma, which was a chronic degenerative condition that affected his heart, lungs, and skin. In 1987, he received a heart and lung transplant, and unfortunately, he died 6 weeks later due to complications, and this was already considered to be a risky transplant. Again, this is a sad case of a talent gone too soon, but this isn't something that points to a curse. Now, what about Dominique Dunn, who died in November of 1982, mere months after the film premiered? Well, her story is not one of a medical condition, but one of abuse. She had a boyfriend named John Sweetie, who she met in 1981. And according to her father, writer Dominique Dunn, he was far more in love with her than she was with him, and he was possessive and abusive, and on October 30th, she tried to break up with him, and he strangled her. And at the hospital, she showed no signs of brain activity. Her family elected to take her off of life support and donate her organs. I'd recommend reading Dominique Dunn's Vanity Fair piece entitled Justice, a father's account of the trial of his daughter's killer. It's a moving piece about her death, John Sweeney's trial, and Dunn's search for justice. And it shows that there was not anything supernatural at work here, rather an all too familiar story of an abusive relationship that ended in death. And finally, let's look at Heather O'Rourke. Her case is really nothing but tragic. She died at age 12 in 1988. But, like Sampson and Beck, this is more of a medical issue than a curse. She'd actually been diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the previous year and had been on medication to manage it. And it was initially thought that she had had the flu, but it turns out that she had had an undiagnosed bowel obstruction, which ended up releasing toxins into her system and sent her in cardiac arrest. It's a really sad story. Doctors tried to solve the issue and tried to save her life, but she died of septic shock. O'Rourke's mother ended up filing a wrongful death suit, claiming that her daughter was misdiagnosed, and had they properly diagnosed the obstruction, her life could have been saved. And she later just settled for an undisclosed amount. So, there you have it. 1 murder and 3 medical issues and not much evidence of a curse. I mean, there are other things that I can bring up, such as the fact that plenty of the cast is still alive, and other cast and crew lived to a ripe old age before passing away, but I think the facts speak for themselves. At the end of the day, these were 4 real people whose deaths, anticipated or not, caused their friends and families a lot of pain. Heather O'Rourke's mother lost her child. Dominique Dunn's family fought for justice years after her death. It's actually kind of disrespectful to use their deaths just to fuel an urban legend or a conspiracy. Speculation can be natural when stuff kind of falls into place like this, but at the end of the day, we need to remember these are real people with lives and families. Sorry for depressing y'all. Thank you for watching, and as always, look for the sources in the comments. And if you want to do some research, you can use our EBSCO databases available through their library's website. And I'll see you next week for the final Halloween misinformation episode.